Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone, to the Cecilia Health webinar today. The title is Embracing the Holidays Without Deprivation, Healthy Eating Strategies for Every Festive Eater. So we're so glad that you could join us today. Should you have any technical difficulties during the broadcast, there is a number to call at the bottom of the screen there. It says call Citrix support, and the number is 1-800-263-6317. So our format includes a short presentation followed by an interactive discussion. You'll have a chance to ask questions at the end of the presentation. To type in a question, use the questions section of the webinar toolbar. And so we look forward to an interactive webinar today. Just a disclaimer, we know that the information you're about to hear may motivate you to make lifestyle changes, but please consult your physician before making any changes to your current routine. As the Cecilia Health Certified Diabetes Educator, our speaker today, Laura, will be providing strategies to help you manage your diabetes. This online Q&A session is intended to give general advice, and this information is not a substitute for personal medical advice and involves the professional opinion of the Cecilia Health Certified Diabetes Educators. Our speaker today is Laura Ashley Johnson. Laura has been a practicing registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator for 10 years. She's from Irvine, Kentucky, but now lives in Houston, Texas. Laura has a passion for nutrition and enjoys cooking for her family. Some of her other hobbies are watching Kentucky basketball, traveling with her family, and spending time with her Norfolk Terrier named Butter. So thank you so much for joining us today, Laura, and you may take it away.
Thank you so much. This is my favorite webinar of the whole year since it's my favorite time of year as well. And as you can see there, we get pretty festive. In fact, we've already got the house decorated and ready for some celebrating to begin. So next we're going to see here a few of our things we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about some realities that we may face with some of our common holiday meals. This will cover Thanksgiving and Christmas. We just ended, Halloween, but it might relate to that as well for you. We're going to talk about how to modify and prepare healthy meals. A lot of the things that we already like in our Thanksgiving and Christmas meal plan is actually something we can make adjustments with to be healthier for our blood sugars. We're going to talk about the power of portion size, talk about some tips for healthy holiday eating, and then we'll have some questions and answers and sharing time at the end. I will take a look. If you have any questions, just type them into your question bar on the side, and I will address them at the end. And if I see them amongst the presentation, I'll check it out as well. So the holiday season, as exciting as it is, we often have a lot of challenges that we have to overcome. There's a lot of traveling involved, flying, driving, great distances, lots of parties, work parties, family parties, just our own family at home, big meals, the holiday before, work might have a big meal. There's often different alcoholic beverages that are available that might pose some challenges. And then just snacks and foods that are brought into the office. We love to get our candies and things that we're given as gifts and maybe go back and share them with everyone at work. But then when you're at work, you don't know who it might be posing a challenge with some too many carbohydrates and sweets just right in front of you. It's hard to resist sometimes. It can be so delicious. So how often do you hear some of these statements during the holidays? And I will be the first one to even raise my hand as well. I think we all might say it. We definitely hear it. This is the only time of year I get to eat this food, so I better take advantage of it. This reminds me of home. My mama made this stuff in and I just love it, and I just got to get as much as I can. This tastes just like Mom's. I don't want to offend anyone by turning down their food, so I better eat my whole plate. I better get a little bit of everybody's. I will start eating better after the holidays. The one I hear often is, my diet starts tomorrow. I'll have just one. That's not a lot, right? One might lead to another, or maybe another. You know, we all hear these during the holiday times, and we do say them as well. So one of the issues we see a lot of times at family events or in our offices is jars of candy, bowls of candy, because they're pretty, they're festive, and they're special for the holidays, so we look forward to them. But they actually pack a lot of punch with their calories and their carbohydrates. So we see here just one peppermint candy, 20 calories for one, 10 peppermint candies, 200 calories. If you ate that extra calories every day added to what you might normally have as a caloric intake now, you would end up gaining 5 pounds a year. So those pounds that creep on, you know, from maybe say 40 years old to 50 years old, and you're like, how did I gain 15, 20 pounds? It's just an overtime, small changes that you've made, habits that have, been manifested that really can cause just those 5 pounds every year to happen. One mini Snickers, 100 calories. 10 mini Snickers, 1,000 calories. Passing out that candy at Halloween, if you kind of put your hand in the candy basket and had a few just while you were passing them out, it really adds up. So if you did this every day in a year, you'd gain about 25 pounds. So of course, that's a little bit of an exaggeration to think that you might do it every day, but we want you to make sure you are aware that these calories do add up and they can pose issues long term. As most people would say, it's much easier to gain the weight than it is to take it off. It's a lot of work that you have to put in with exercise and dietary changes to get that weight back off. So try not to make that an issue for you beforehand rather than after. So how can I compensate? Say you do eat maybe in that day an extra 200 calories of candy. You can maybe take a half-hour brisk walk. That's going to be about 100 calories, and then a half hour of yard work. That'll add up to be about the calories for the candies that you ate, or 1 hour of total physical activity that's something more intense. So if you did have your hand in that candy jar and you got 200 calories, you can go and work it off. It's what we don't want to happen is making that a daily habit. So to burn off 1,000 calories, it's going to take some work. Here you have 1 hour on the elliptical will be about 500 calories, and then 60 minutes of weights will be about another 300, and then an hour of yard work, stringing those lights. That's a good one. You're going to be putting up Christmas trees and ornaments and stuff. But look at there, it takes 3 hours of physical activities just to burn off those Snickers that you might have eaten. So be really careful, because with blood sugar management and diabetes management, your blood sugars reflect that weight gain that can happen from poor eating habits. Not only the carbs in there, but the weight that you put on can make it more difficult to control your blood sugars. So here are some realities on our common holiday meals. So look at these big figures. An average holiday meal provides about 4,500 calories, 229 grams of fat, and 389 grams of carbs. So for most of you who are working with your certified diabetes educator, you know that for your meals for women, the average amount of carbs we recommend from the American Diabetes Association is 30 to 45 grams of carbs per meal, possibly 15 grams between for snacks. And for men, it's 45 to 60 grams of carbs per meal and 15 grams per snacks. So boy, these meals can really pack a punch of the carbohydrates and the calories and the fat. So here are some big contributors here. Pecan pie, 500 calories per slice. That's about an eighth of the pie. Now that's not that Costco or Sam's Club pie. Now that one's gonna have a whole lot more. So this is just your average like 9-inch pie, 500 calories per slice. 1 cup of stuffing, 350 calories. 6 ounces of dark meat, 320 calories. Mashed potatoes, 320 calories. gravy, 206 calories. That's for just a quarter cup. And green bean casserole, 350 calories for 1 cup. That's kind of one of those misleading ones because you think, well, it's green bean casserole. It's not probably too much. We got my veggies in there, but it's the soup that's in there, the starch that helps to thicken it, and the topping that really adds up the fat and the calories towards that one. So that is just a lot to swallow, and no pun intended, but it is a lot of nutrients that our body's going to have to really work hard to figure out to get rid of and use as it's needed. So here's where we're going to really start tackling these issues that you might be having. So first things first, eat breakfast or a snack before you leave home. If you arrive at a party starving, you'll be way more likely to indulge. So some ideas that you might want to consider. These are actually some that we are kind of consider as free, or they're very low in carbs. You could do things like nuts, like almonds or walnuts. Another good option is like sticks of vegetables. Hummus has a little bit of carbohydrates in there, but they're good if you need to dip a little bit with your vegetables. You want to try to have at least five or fewer carbohydrate grams for your snack, since you're going to be having more in your meal that's going to be following. Some other ideas, pickles, sugar-free popsicles are good. Salsa is good. Sometimes veggies with salsa is one of our low-carb options. Drinking some like tomato juice or the lower carb vegetable juices. Drinking like a diet soft drink, sometimes the carbonation can kind of help you feel full and satisfied too. Sugar-free gelatin, that's a really good one. And don't confuse that with sugar-free pudding. Sugar-free pudding does have less carbohydrates than most of the regular puddings, but it still does have carbohydrates from the milk that's in there. So even though they don't add sugar, it still is going to have some carbohydrates with the pudding. Unsweetened or sweetened with a sugar substitute tea is a good one to have to kind of fill you up, or other sugar-free drinks. Some other low carb snacks that you might want to consider, and these are, I want to give you a kind of a plethora of things because it is challenging to find really low carb snacks you can have that's not going to make your sugars go up and end up making, if you eat a lot of it, make for a lot of carbohydrates. So eggs are good, string cheese, cottage cheese, olives are great, black or green olives, celery with a little bit of peanut butter, say like a tablespoon or two. Sunflower seeds are good too. Those are really great ones that you can do because they take time to eat, the ones like in the shells. So that's a good one too. So there is a lot of ideas right there that you can kind of help to, get your hunger curbed before you go into the day. So don't skip the meal beforehand. Try not to hang out near the food to avoid grazing. Focus on socializing instead of eating. So a lot of times we do have our family and friends around, and maybe grab your sugar-free drink that you might have and go and talk, chat. Holiday times are not to be the focus on just the food. It is a wonderful advantage to it, but it's also time with your family and friends. So, maybe go outside if your family's outside hanging out, go by the fire, go for a walk together, catch up, and use that as a way to kind of get away from the food. One of the ways, and I think we talk about a little bit later too, but another way is, maybe not have your food right in front of you with your table. Some people like to keep it in their kitchen, so you're less likely just to go ahead and dip right in front of you if it's sitting right there. It can kind of help curb eating too much food. Include some healthy starters like the raw vegetables or homemade soup. A lot of soups you can make very low carb very easily, and warm foods tend to make us feel more satisfied and full. So homemade soups are great. If you've got a little, maybe some broth or some of the stock from the turkey that you made, it's got some fat in there, but it is primarily low carb or no carb in it. So you could make some really good soups with that. Weight Watchers actually has some really great low carb soups that are, if you Google Weight Watchers low carb soups, they are some delicious options out there. And they have lots of good ideas like cabbage and like turnips and different ways to prepare cauliflower in their soups that make them really hearty. But you think you're eating more of the carbohydrates in there, but really you're not. But the starters like the raw vegetables, even some of your your charcuterie meats and things, those are good for low carb options that are good for starters too. And use a smaller plate to help control your portion sizes. You don't have to use a large dinner size plate. Sometimes just having a smaller plate can help you, to control your portions because your plate looks full and it's a smaller plate. And if you are left with a large plate and have small portions, sometimes you're left feeling like, I should fill that space with more. So smaller plates can help as well. Like I said, serve meals in the kitchen instead of family style on the table. That's a great one. It helps us to avoid those seconds out of the convenience of it being right in front of you. And limit the number of servings of starchy foods on your plate. So this is one I really often give patients because it's one that if you really think about the holidays, what are your favorite things that you have? So think about, what do you eat all year long? Maybe your family already eats mashed potatoes or rolls or cornbread. If it's something you already eat all year and it's not really special, then maybe forego those, because there probably are things that are going to be there like the dressing and the cranberry sauce and maybe some sweet potato casserole or a broccoli casserole. Maybe there are things there that you don't have all year round that you want to focus on maybe being your special thing. So prioritize your favorites. Study all the options that you have before you fill up your plate, and say, okay, I'm going to forego this one so that I can have this one. And it really is about balance. So decide which ones are you going to be worth the calories and the carbohydrates, and you're going to really enjoy it, and stick to that decision. So here are some, here's one in particular, the cranberry sauce. So go easy on the gravy and opt for cranberry sauce. So cranberry sauce is actually got a decent amount of carbohydrates with it too, because cranberries just, they naturally pack that sweetness in there, and a lot of the sauces we make have sugar in there too. So you could use a sugar substitute to kind of help lower the carbohydrates in the cranberry sauce to help. So, be assertive too. Sometimes you've got those family members and they're like, oh, come on, your grandmother made this fudge. You need to have a bite. You need to eat that. If you're not hungry, or you feel like you've had enough, or that you've reached your max with carb, just say, no, I'm so sorry. I'm so full. I just cannot eat anymore. Maybe later I'll take one home, or, I'll split one later with my friend or with my wife. So you can be assertive and kind at the same time, and just be like, no, I just, I've had plenty, I gotta hold off. And when you feel full, just stop eating. That's one of our biggest issues, that we just kind of feel like we got to keep eating because it just smells good too. So stop eating. And one of the biggest things is just make your way away from the meal. After you're done eating, step away. You've got all those temptations around you, and yes, they do smell really good. So after your meal, get up, take a walk with your family and your friends, continue to catch up, and maybe go outside and enjoy the fall foliage, and just maybe play some games. That's a great way to kind of get yourself away from the food. And checking your blood sugars throughout the holidays is actually really important. During the holidays and other times when you are off your routine, it's best to check your blood sugars more often. You will want to make sure that you haven't really caused your blood sugars to be at an irrational number because of that holiday meal that you've had. The only way to know this is to just check your blood sugar regularly during the holidays. The last thing you need is an episode of one of the complications you might be aware of. It's called diabetic ketoacidosis, and that can put you in the hospital. So that's one way that can definitely spoil the holiday for you and your loved ones if that happens. So a few extra checks will alert you to potential problems, and will help you to keep your blood sugars as close to target range as possible during the holidays. Some of you might actually be on some different medication plans that makes adjustments with medication during the holidays. So talk with your diabetes educator about that, and they can guide you as to if you might need to discuss it with your doctor. Of course, your doctor has to be the person who makes the call with medication adjustments, but there are some things that happen during that time, or maybe if you do have a really high blood sugar, then they may have a plan of attack for what to do with that one. Another thing kind of on the opposite spectrum, we talked earlier about making sure you don't come into your day hungry and skipping a meal. I've had it happen in the past where patients have done just that, where they've not eaten, and then they go to their family get together and their blood sugar is crashing. They're having a low blood sugar, and so then we're having to treat that. So, eating regularly through the day is important so that you do have as good a blood sugar management as you can. Remember that if you keep leftovers, you will eat it. One of the best things that you can do is focus on making the day special and maybe foregoing taking some home, because if you eat the same amount the next day, then we're having the same problems the next day. So only make enough to serve the amount of people present. That's one thing that you can do. If you have a family of 8, kind of do your math and how much turkey and how much dressing is needed for about a family of 8. If you do have leftovers, you can always send them home with your family or your friends, and they can enjoy them if they don't have issues with blood sugars or weight management now, which they could in the future if they made poor choices on the long term, but they could take it home with them. I mean, another really great option, and one that you might find at your stores. Our stores in Texas actually did this year. If you bought a turkey on certain days, you got a ham for free, or if you bought a ham, you got a turkey for free. So unfortunately, a lot of people might put it in their freezer because they may not make both, and then they forget about it and it ruins. So there's a lot of gratification and satisfaction you can get from donating something like that to the homeless shelters or the pantries in your area. They will definitely make a place for it somewhere in a good home where they can enjoy it too. So, recipe modifications, don't be afraid. Put your chef's hat on. Don't feel like you have to do the traditional menu and make it just the way grandma or your aunt made it. There's this I remember a story, the hams that are those big round hams. Um, Down this lineage, a family was always cutting off the end of the hams and sticking it in the oven. And one day someone said, why do you do that? And the answer was, well, my aunt did it. Well, and it went down the line, and the only reason the family member actually did it was because their oven was too small. So just because your family's done it routinely doesn't mean it's necessary, or not that you can't make it healthier. So swap your high calorie ingredients for lower calorie ones. And here are some ways that you can do that. So you can use like the 2% reduced fat cheese or the low fat cheese instead of full fat versions. You can substitute Greek yogurt instead of sour cream. So some of your soups might have that in there. Also, some of the green bean casseroles have sour cream, so you could use Greek yogurt there. If you make your vegetables and dip, Greek yogurt's a great one to mix with those ranch dips for that too. Mustard instead of mayo. This is maybe one for like a potato salad, if that's one you make. I know it's kind of more barbecue-ish, but some people do make potato salad all year. Applesauce instead of oil. This is a good one for some of those baked goods that you can do. It does provide the moisture that oil provides and also gives a great texture. Smart Balance is one of the butter alternatives that have like healthy fats in there that you can use instead. And cinnamon or Splenda instead of sugar. There are actually lots of sugar substitutes on the market that you can use instead of sugar. Sometimes patients, or friends of mine, if I kind of suggest things like that, they'll be like, I don't know if that'll work. You got plenty of time before Thanksgiving and Christmas to maybe try a recipe and see if you like it. If it turns out well, you can make sure you're going to perform well for the holiday. So we went through kind of the sour cream alternatives and the reduced fat cheese. These are good for those like cheese logs or cheese balls. I was trying to think, I think there's like a corn pudding that sometimes has cheese in there and that, or cheese on top, and that's a good way to substitute that one. So as you see here, you can really cut back a lot of grams of fat and calories by making some of these adjustments. So vegetables is one thing that you can kind of replace in some of your dishes to make it a lower carb option. And especially like the stuffing or the dressing, you can put in like water chestnuts. Some people, there are recipes that actually have cauliflower in there. I know it doesn't might be sound delicious on the surface, but actually cauliflower prepared in a really good way and seasoned well with like your fresh sage or your dried sage, and it's like the sausage and other ingredients in there, you can actually make it really delicious. So Also, the vegetables we talked about with the soups. If you decide to make a soup, that's a good way to replace some of the carbohydrates. Cocoa. When making holiday recipes with chocolate, you can substitute some of the sugar-free cocoa or the reduced sugar for the chocolate. There is a really good way to make like hot cocoa too. Say you want that for the holidays. There's a recipe I found from Southern Living years ago. It was kind of funny too because I just said, I wish there was a way I could make cocoa that doesn't have so much sugar. And I wanted it really good and thick, but I didn't want to use like heavy cream because that's oftentimes what makes a good heavy cream, thicker cocoa. And there was a recipe for like an almond milk that you put a little bit of cornstarch and you mixed it in a little bowl and then you added it to more of the vanilla almond milk and then you still used some of the chocolate shaved that like you buy semi-sweet shaved, but then you also add some of the sugar-free cocoa powder. It made the most delicious cocoa and it was like thick because the cornstarch gave it a little thickness. So it was just funny that the very day I said that later, my mom had that Southern Living magazine and it was thick and creamy, healthy hot cocoa. So it worked out good that day. Evaporated milk, that's another alternative you can use instead of sour cream. It gives a good richness, but not as many calories too that you can substitute. And don't forget, portion size matters. It really does. For those of you who are watching the webinar right now, you actually see the plate. So the food plate method we'd like to go by is if you look at it, it's divided on a half of it is vegetables, and it says in here like fill half of your plate with vegetables such as carrots and green beans. That's actually a couple of common ones at the holidays. If you don't want to make green bean casserole, another alternative is green beans with like slivered almonds and kind of little olive oil. They're delicious, and you can even top it a little bit with the fried onions. That's going to be a little more calories. They're not too high in carbs, but sometimes just crumbling a few of those on top can give you the crunch and the flavor you like from the green bean casserole too. Avoid casseroles, it says here, or dishes that have heavy cream, sauces, and butter, or crust. That might be like your cabbage casserole, broccoli casserole, green bean casserole. There's lots out there. Other vegetables to consider might be like a broccoli, steamed vegetables, salads. Oh my goodness, there are some really good harvest salads that you can look up online that have, you could put figs in there or pumpkin seeds, and you can make your own dressings. I just made an apple cider vinaigrette dressing this week that had mayo, apple cider vinaigrette, some Dijon honey mustard, and a little honey with salt, and you just shook it up, and it was delicious. So there are great, great items out there that you can use. Like asparagus as well. Another way asparagus can be prepared kind of yummy. You got to be careful with sodium, but asparagus wrapped with a little slice of prosciutto and baked in the oven is really delicious. If your table is low on vegetables, consider adding fruit to this half of your plate. That might actually be like your cranberries that you add with your turkey. So let's see, on the other half of the plate, you have it in two sections. The upper part, we have grains, and the lower part, we have protein. So fill a quarter of your plate with the starches, such as that stuffing or sweet potatoes. Other choices might be like mashed or baked potatoes, rice pilaf, or corn pudding. Now remember, corn, potatoes, and peas are our starchy vegetables, so those would go in this section, not on the other half of your plate. Skip the bread or rolls, especially if they're not something special. Now, I have patients who say, now my mom only makes her sourdough rolls on Thanksgiving. So, if that's the case, then you know that that's going to be one of your portions there. Protein, fill a quarter of your plate with lean turkey slices. So about 4 ounces, that's about the size of a deck of cards. Avoid the dark meat, including the drumsticks, because that's going to give you more calories and give you more fat as well. So removing the skin is another way you can save on these calories and fat too. And instead of gravy, use that maybe fruit-based relish that you made, the cranberry salsa or the cranberry salad to accompany it. So this is a great visual of what you want your plate to look like, and you can be pretty successful with keeping your carbs under good control. Another thing to consider is alcoholic beverages in the holidays. The recommendation is for women for 1 drink, and for men that's 2 drinks. So what is considered a drink? 1 drink is 5 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, and 1.5 ounces of 80 proof liquor or above. So you do have to consider how many carbs are in alcohol as well, because there are some that are higher than others. So like beers, for instance, you can get one that's maybe 3 grams of carbs per beer, and then there might be another that's 30 grams per beer. So go for the lower carb options. And you might want to talk with your certified diabetes educator about alcohol during the holidays if this is something you're planning for, because sometimes with diabetes management we can see our blood sugars fluctuate in a way that it could drop or jump high, kind of do some unexpected patterns, and I want you to be prepared for that. So if alcohol during the holidays is something you know for sure you're going to be doing and partaking of, talk with them about what this might do to your blood sugars and how to be prepared for that. So, and here's the thing. We know these holidays we do a little more than usual. Don't beat yourself up if you overindulge. Just plan to get back on track. Tomorrow's a new day. You're not eating that Thanksgiving feast again. Just get back on track. And yesterday is the past. Today's a new day. Moving forward, we're making good choices. And keep exercising. You don't need a break from physical activity during the holidays. We need it probably even more. So, walk before, maybe in the morning, and then walk in the evening on Thanksgiving or on Christmas, and really burn more calories, get that metabolism kind of revving up a little bit more. And that can help to keep the extra caloric load that you're having in carbs a little bit better in check. Plan and prepare. You know what's coming up. We've got just a matter of a few weeks. Prepare for it. You go ahead right now and start looking up some recipes and maybe what you can do to make some adjustments with your recipes to make them better for you, and what can you contribute. One of the best things that I tell patients going to parties and stuff is bring a low carb or no carb dish. You contribute that. Maybe some meatballs, or maybe some buffalo chicken dip with celery, the dip in it. Bring a charcuterie, a cheese and meat board with some vegetables. Don't bring the carb thing, because they're going to be there. There's going to be plenty of carbohydrate choices there. So maybe plan ahead, start looking now up online, or go to the library and see what some recipes might be something you want to try. Having diabetes does not preclude you from enjoying holiday meals either. You just have to be mindful of what you eat and how you eat, how much you eat. And I always tell patients moderation all throughout the whole year. Moderation is the key. Just yesterday with a patient was going out on a date, going to dinner and into the movies, and he knew he wanted popcorn. So a size of popcorn, about the size of really it's about a small at the theaters now, or it's like the size of like a Target small popcorn there. It has about 45 grams of carbs. So I said, okay, well, the meal before, when you go to dinner, just eat mainly protein and eat the non-starchy vegetables like broccoli, your side salad, asparagus, eat that. And then when you go to the movies, eat the popcorn that you want. So it's just making good balanced choices and maybe giving up somewhere so you can have something else in another. And here is our healthy eating contract with the American Association of Diabetes Educators. I know that it is possible to enjoy the wonderful food of this holiday season and keep my blood sugar stable. Today, I make a promise to myself to make healthy food choices during this holiday season. I will balance my food intake. I will limit the sweets and desserts I eat. I will avoid grazing between meals. If I drink, I will do so in moderation. I will maintain my activity level, and I will check my blood sugar throughout the day to make sure I am within my target ranges. I promise to enjoy this special time of year and give thanks for my health, happiness, and the love of family and friends. And I hope this resonates with all of you, because it really is a time to enjoy with your family and friends, and to enjoy some of your favorite foods that you really love. Enjoy them. Don't use the day, if you have different challenges that you're struggling with, don't use that as a setback. Use it as forward. So that concludes today. We're going to kind of give some time for some questions. And I do see over here our first question, and here it is. Okay, so I've got a lot of recipes that have sugar. Some are side dishes and some are desserts. One of my favorites is like a pumpkin bread. Is there a particular sugar substitute that you recommend? Oh, yes, actually, I've got several favorites. So there are some sugar substitutes that are not safe for baking, but the ones that are and that people use most often are Splenda, Truvia, and another one that's fairly new, but I think it's pretty mainstream now because I saw it at my local Costco recently. So once they usually have it, I feel like most people start seeing it more often. But the one that is the one I'm talking about is called Swerve, and it's Swerve. I actually discovered it about 4 years ago when I had a patient that was trying to find ways to lower their carbohydrates, and in our local Kroger or like your Publix type of store, they had it. And it's kind of pricey in the Costco, or if they have it at a Sam's Club, I haven't tried there. The bigger ones are definitely a lot cheaper. But there is no aftertaste with Swerve. So, well, unlike Splenda, like there is a cookie I used to make with Splenda that, and you could try it too if you want to jot this down. It's called the Magical Peanut Butter Cookies. It's 1 egg, 1 cup of Splenda, 1 cup of peanut butter, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So one cup of Splenda, 1 cup of peanut butter, 1 egg, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And you mix those together and scoop them out like a peanut butter cookie, and then make your little fork imprints, bake them in the oven, 350 till they're slightly brown. They're delicious. And I used to make that when I would go around for like career day to show students how this is a sweet treat you can have that's a lower carbohydrate option for those who need that type of choice. And it's also gluten-free for those who might have celiac disease. But I will say the Splenda gave a slight aftertaste that was not always the most palatable. So recently I changed to the Swerve, and there is no aftertaste. So it's kind of what your preference is, but Swerve, a couple ways you could do it, or any of them. The cranberry sauce, that's one place you could substitute it. Sweet potato casserole or sweet potatoes just baked oftentimes have brown sugar on there. And the Swerve comes in granulated brown sugar and powdered sugar. So you could use the brown sugar for that if it calls for it. I've actually made a white chocolate raspberry cheesecake with the Swerve as a complete sugar substitute. I substitute all of it. Not, some people say they do half and half. I used it all. And I also made a pumpkin bread recently that I took out all of the sugar and used the Swerve instead. And it's just delicious. So that is probably one of the best things you can do to really take back a lot of the carbohydrates and things. That was a really good question, and probably one I'm more passionate about because it's something we're practicing recently in my own household. Um, it says, how about for drinks? Yeah, so you can use like the Swerve and like sweet tea. I don't know if you're in a family that likes a lot of sweet tea, but that's a good way to make that too, to make it no carb as well. Now, some patients have asked me in our coaching calls that they've heard that there might be dangers of these sugar substitutes. So from all the research that I've read, and a lot of dietitians will attest, or diabetes educators, that sugar substitutes are fine when consumed in moderate consumption. So all of the sugar substitutes have an upper limit of what is safe to consume, but most of them you would have to drink like 24 plus like cans of soda to show problems. And what I mean by that too, especially with diabetes management, if you have a really large concentration of sugar substitutes in your body, like say you eat sugar-free candy all day, and then you drink sugar-free drinks, and then you eat sugar-free foods, what can happen if you have a high concentration of the sugar-free particles in your body? then your body can think it's sugar because it is so much in there. And then your pancreas will start making insulin because it thinks, oh, I need to lower this now. But when it gets into the bloodstream, it's like, wait a second, that's not sugar. What do we do now? So it can start lowering your sugar more than it should and could cause you to have some low sugar hypoglycemic types of symptoms and can start going lower. It could also signal you to eat, and then it might increase your appetite more, so you're actually snacking, grazing, and just trying to fulfill that appetite that you're trying to quench, and it can be harder. So yes, in very large consumption amounts, those are a couple of the issues that you could see. But putting a cup of it in a cheesecake that you're going to have a slice of, or a piece of pumpkin cake, then that's okay. Great question though. And what are some activities you suggest doing during the holidays with family? Oh, there's tons of things. I think it's probably more varied in the family, but there are some great games you can do that do involve, physical activities. Some of the what is it called? Like charades, things that you're up and acting out things. So that's, find games that you can really be active. Going out for a walk, a lot of places have areas where you can walk. There's some places have like even ski hills where you can go and do snow tubing, and they're often open close to the holidays, and some even on the holidays. You could do like soccer and like just the sports you like outside. Um, there's a really fun game that gets you up and at it too. And this is great for Thanksgiving or for Christmas. The cling wrap that you kind of wrap that always sticks together. It's kind of that aggravating thing to get apart. If you start with a little piece of it and make a ball, and as you keep making a ball bigger and bigger, putting different items in it, so we got this, end up with this massive, cling wrap ball that has, little toys and maybe $1 here and there and maybe a treat here and there. You can get your table, your dinner table, and put all your family around it. And then what you do is you take dice, and you start with a person rolling the dice. And once they get a pair that's the same, like a 4 and a 4, then they get to start unwrapping the cling wrap. And you do that around the table until it's all gone and all of the stuff is removed. So it's called the cling wrap holiday game. That's just something you could check out online and watch someone do it too. But it's really fun. Everybody gets into it because they're trying to unwrap it as quickly as they can because they want all the treasures in there. So, all right. Well, gosh, I've so much enjoyed my time with you all today. This has been so much fun. I love this time of year. I do want to just kind of give you a heads up on our future schedule, because we will have these once a month as always in February. That is coming up, but the first one we've got coming up in December, that'd be December 3rd at 6 p.m. It's Take Control: Inspiring Tools and Tips for Becoming Your Own Diabetes Coach. In January, it will be on the 13th at 6 p.m. It's the new year for the new you, diabetes resolutions that stick. And on February, it'll be February 11th, all the medication tips your doctor never told you. So think about that ahead, and just let your dietitian, diabetes educator know that you're interested, and they can make sure that you have the tools you need to register online today. Wanted to attend our events, like I said, talk to your coach. You want to sign up for text messages with your coach, and check us out on Facebook. We're on there at facebook.com/Cecilia Health Coaching. We love our job. We love working with patients, and we love to help. And anything that we can do, make suggestions, let us know. We want to do everything we can to be the best team for you. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your attendance. We really do. And thank you for your questions. Those were great. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season.